Character descriptions. When you describe your character, it's important that you have some sort of physical characteristic that you can describe so the reader can imagine what the character looks like. For the main character, like in my books, Game Night 999, I don't describe him a lot. He has sandy blonde hair, he's 12 years old, he's not really big, not really small. I want the reader to be able to imagine that they're that character. So I don't want to make some very specific descriptions about him. If I say he only has one eye and his ear droops, then it's hard for a reader to imagine that he's Game Night 999. So the main character I leave a little sort of ambiguous so that people can imagine being them. Some of the secondary characters, like his best friend Crafter in the stories, I talk about Crafter and his bright blue eyes. And in the first book, he's an old man, so he has long flowing gray hair that flows down his back. And I'm able to describe that. It looks silvery in the moonlight, blah, blah, blah. I can describe that for the reader, and they can imagine that, and it helps to draw them into the story. Later, Crafter becomes a young boy, and so now he has long blonde hair that looks bright against his bright blue eyes. So again, there's something there I can describe. Some of the bad guys that I have, like Zatul, the Zombie King, he wears bright shining chainmail that sparkles and jingles, so I can talk about the sound and I can talk about the appearance of it. Erebus, the King of the Enderman, he has a dark red body, red like dried blood, and his eyes are bright red, and he's really mean. Red is wrapped around that character a lot. So I have those characteristics in there so that the reader can imagine that very clearly in their head, and it helps to draw them in. In the case of this sample story, I'm going to have Watcher, who is a tall, skinny youth with long, dark hair, and that's how I'm going to kind of describe him. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I want him to be able to draw the readers in. Karkin, the King of the Withers. Withers are jet black, and they have 3 heads and they float around. This one's going to have some scars on his face from past battles so that the reader can imagine the scar, and that implies a backstory to that creature, that something must have battled him before and gave him a scar. Maybe it was a battle with the Spider Queen or something. But I want to give him some sort of feature that he'll be able to be fully imagined by the reader so it can draw him in. I'll also give something to Carver, who's going to be the warrior who's a bully. We'll give him some sort of characteristic other than big bulging muscles and broad shoulders, but I need a feature on his face, something about him. Maybe one eye is taller than the other. Maybe his unibrow. Villagers always have a unibrow. The eyebrow goes all the way across. And maybe there'll be something about his unibrow and it's crooked like a little bolt of lightning or something. I'll create some sort of feature that I can talk about and I can describe and I can refer frequently to help the reader associate with that character. So these are really important, because if everybody looks the same, then the reader can't imagine that character speaking when there's dialogue. And you want to be able to have that distinctive physical characteristic to help the reader understand who's talking and help the reader understand what's happening in the story. That's just as important with the character as it is with the environment when I talk about setting, that the setting is the same thing. You got to make it very specific, you got to be very descriptive of it, and you have to control the description so you don't kill the pacing of the story, and it's the same with the character. Too much description is bad. Not enough description is bad. There's a sweet spot, like the 3 bears. The baby bear's bed was just right, and that's what you need to do with description. You got to be like the baby bear. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.